Hello and welcome to 10 Walks Explain Everything. I'm Nicholas Walton. This is the third walk that explains the Netherlands. In this I'm walking from the Hoek of Holland into Delft, and this one is about the agricultural miracle mainly. When we first moved to the Netherlands, to Delft, we lived in a beautiful old brewery on one of the main canals, and my wife and I sat staring out across the rooftops one evening, and we noticed that the sky was orange. We thought, well, could this just be Rotterdam being reflected on the low cloud base? Because of course this is the Netherlands, there's always low clouds, although not today. And we came to realize that actually no, it was these endless greenhouses, these glasshouses, which have got lights on overnight so they can keep growing. They need to be productive, reflected on the sky. So this is really the only country where the countryside creates more light pollution than the cities. Incredible. Everywhere land is being put to use, not just productive use, but super productive use. And the reason why this is so important goes back to the middle of last century. It was a year or two before the end of the Second World War. The Nazis knew the game was up. Here in the provinces of the Netherlands that were close to the North Sea, like Zuid Holland, where I am now, things were getting a bit grim, and they were to get even grimmer. The Germans cut the food supply off. The whole country began to starve. It's what became known as the Hongerwinter. People were reduced to eating tulip bulbs, scrabbling around for anything. People became emaciated. There was famine. And towards the end of the war, the Americans and British had to make food drops to bring in food. And all of this left, as you can imagine, a very big impression upon the Dutch public. After the war, immediately after the war, the economy wasn't good, but there was some money coming in. And after the Hongerwinter, the shock of just how bad things had got under the Nazis, one of the priorities soon became put money into agriculture, use the fertile soils, but become productive. And this is something that Dutch government after Dutch government has really emphasized. And you can see it now all around. You have, just look at me, look at behind me. You have row after row, mile after mile of greenhouses. There's some little fir trees growing in there. I don't know what's going to be here, but you can bet that it's going to be perfectly regulated, adapted to the circumstances, growing day and night under lights. Dutch agriculture became extraordinarily productive. And today, in the 2020s, this tiny, tiny country, this unlikely place, this miracle, is the second largest agricultural exporter in the world, after the United States. There are, back in 2020, almost 4 million cows, 72 million pigs, and 90 million chickens in this country. The average acreage around the world of potato farms, talking about 9 tons of potatoes. Here it's 20 plus tons of potatoes. This place is an agriculture superpower. This is the agricultural industrial complex. Yeah, the Dutch, of course, have their image of stout farmers with clogs and their wives bringing the cows in for a bit of milking. But in reality, this is the most mechanized farming that you will find anywhere. They even have robots that go up and down the tulip fields, and they use artificial intelligence to spot which of the tulips that are slightly wrong, slightly diseased, anything wrong with them, and they rip them out. Not many places in the world have tulip robots. See a lot of things like this. You have the old farmhouses, sometimes a lot grander than the pretty little one that you can see over there. And they are on a tiny plot of land, sometimes literally enough to have a little garden and and a barbecue and somewhere to park the car, and the rest of it is all glass houses. So this one's actually got far more space than most. You know, these things can look ugly, but they're the future of agriculture, you know. They're perfectly climate controlled inside. They can grow things 24 hours a day, 12 months a year, even in a climate that sometimes gets, let's face it, a little bit windy and wet and cold, like the Netherlands. They allow people to be able to work out exactly how much light and water and nutrients to be able to feed the plants that are growing inside. They really are a miracle. When they grow tomatoes in these places, they often don't even grow them on soil. They grow them virtually in the air. Look at the size of that old man. Almost looks like he's got a slight limp, but then again, if you can imagine that he's in here with all of these female cows, I can see why he's limping a bit.